Okay, we're now live.
Great. Okay, does everybody have a copy of the agenda in front of them so you can look at my pretty face instead of me sharing the agenda? All right. Hearing nobody say no. First item is public input. I don't see any members of the public. If you are here and would like to say something, please unmute yourself and say something. Okay, if not, we'll go on to the approval of the September 14th minutes, which were attached or part of the agenda. So could somebody move to accept the minutes?
I'll move to accept the
All
minute.
right, Sam, since you're an official member now, you can do that.
Yes.
Somebody second the approval of the minutes? Colin, was that you raising your hand or just? Okay, thanks. Were there any additions or corrections? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please say aye. Or raise your
Aye.
hand or do something.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and abstentions. All righty. There is no chair's report this month, and that's not because I took the month off, but I've been spending a lot of time with several of the committees, and so you'll hear about those goings on later on in the agenda. So that brings us to standing reports. Greg, transportation planner update.
All right, so starting off real quick. So the activity grant plan's still being reviewed by section along 136. We're just still working with them to get that finalized. I just want to reiterate, the money for the grant is already related to the city. So we have the money. It's just a matter of the final design and working with the state off on everything. It's just a matter of time, and we're still projecting for spring of 2020 for it to begin. Highland Ave still in the final phase, and that's the same thing. The school money has already been allocated for this project as well, so the money is there. It's just a matter of final design. Every on the right timeline. A couple weeks ago, we again for the planned meeting to the main discussion again with Seaview Ave. We discussed and the movements from especially between the intersections at East Avenue and Seaview, and all the way to Avenue or First Street and Seaview Avenue intersection. We discussed. Well, we came out with preliminary concept designs, had some options and got some back and forth with the other members, with some members of the committee. So we're definitely take those suggestions and those back to the drawing board, if you will, and come up with some other ones. And project is going to keep evolving as we continue to work towards a final design. Also, we're still being cognizant of the East Norwalk COD process, trying to tie that in together. So that also to tie that in because both happen sooner rather than later, but who knows? But on going back to Seaview, we did data collection with some traffic we got from the state and the crash data as well. Data from January of 2015 all the way to today. Did during our meeting a couple weeks ago that some of you remember, there were 8 accidents. There are crashes that occurred between East Avenue and First Street. So we're looking at analyzing those as we put those coming procedures and concepts into the design. Since we met, we did come up with a couple other designs as well that we'll share with the commission. Those meetings, we won't share them now. These meetings, because we have a lot to get to, so we can kind of narrow to that as forward. I just want to reiterate, you all know a lot of people are retiring at City Hall, So just where things may take time, this isn't going to happen overnight, especially if we get things done on our end. There's still other departments short people. So just cognizant of that. And if things are delayed a little bit, bear with us, especially since a lot of knowledge is walking out the door. So just be aware of that. We'll continue to put together some outreach plans with the property owners in the area to discuss improvements for the roadway and what it was planning. So will help us in the design as we implement those designs, and we try to look for short-term options, and also as we look for longer-term improvements as we keep moving forward with the corridor and for better traffic and better pedestrian facilities going forward. Also, we discussed at the meeting as well, Hanford Place will be getting a bike facility. We'll be doing a shared road and put Charles along with signage on Hanford Place, which will connect street to Monroe. Being a missing connection between the two bike routes. So the timeline is unknown, but hopefully it'll be later. We'll keep you posted on when the timeline is for that. So that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. As far as Hanford Place too, there is money in the commission's capital budget to pay for the painting of the Sharrows when you get there. So
yeah, it's the money issue. It's just more of time and actually get there and doing it, especially as colder approaches and the striping contract as well. So it's just more of a thing and timing issue thing.
yeah, but you even if it gets too late to paint this fall, you could still figure out where it is you want to put them. So when spring comes and it's warm enough to paint, we're ready to go.
Yeah, it's relatively easy. I mean, there's only going to be, I think,
it's only one block.
Yeah, it's only an 8 sec. It's only going to be eight symbols and 4 more than likely. So
yep.
Won't be too involved, as far as the installation is concerned. So we'll keep you as that moves forward.
Yeah, and I'd also like to compliment you and the team you worked with from the city on the work you've done on Seaview, because I think any of us who have either tried to walk or bike on Seaview understand that it's a mess and there really aren't any easy good solutions. So I think the ideas that you've come up with so far are very good, and hopefully we can make them even better in the next month or two.
Yeah, and like I said, yeah, even since our last we had a couple weeks ago, we've already kind of come up with some newer things as well than design put together. But it's just as far as now, it's just find time to meet and discuss and kind of put these in a little bit better sense of how we can display them and how we can do it. So just bear with us, and we'll keep you guys involved in the whole process while we as this evolves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's not an easy project for sure.
No.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Greg? Yeah, Judge.
Yes.
There. So do you think any chance Hanford will get done this fall, or?
That, Judd, I can't guarantee if it's going to get done this year. I don't know. We're between the new striping contract that's still, it's finalized, but at the same
it hasn't been, the contract hasn't been signed yet. So
yeah,
and we can't encumber funds until the contract's signed.
Yeah, so we're still.
I want to reiterate what Greg said about staffing and resources. There are 44 of us who are leaving after our last day is on Friday, the 9th. And then there are several others who have resigned on top of that. So there'll be the work itself will be assigned to other people, and there will be a transition and a consolidation. My understanding is that not all the positions will be backfilled at all. So there'll be that consolidation, but that's going to take some time to reorganize and for people to understand what the responsibilities are. So I just want to reiterate what Greg said. So please bear with the remaining staff. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge and rocky road, but I think in the end, it will work itself out.
As it always does.
It does.
One way or another.
Okay, I'll assume, Greg, I'll assume spring and if it gets done this fall, be really happy. So,
Yeah, I would, that's a good way to look at it, Judd. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Projects and all other things will move forward, so we won't be stopped. It will be, delayed a little bit, but we're still moving forward.
Yep, okay.
All right, thank you very much. Judd, the bike plan.
I missed a good part of Greg's presentation, but I think he probably summed it up well where we are. I think overall this year, in terms of the bike, additional new increases in the bike route, it's kind of got lost with the virus and everything. And I'm looking forward to meeting with Colin and Gary and Sam and Tanner over the winter and figuring out the routes. I think also now we all have a better understanding of how the average daily traffic counts and the speed limit affect, where a bike lane can go or where it has to be sharrows. So I think we kind of have to rethink the plan and the routes that we came up with last winter. And I think that's all I have to say at the moment about it.
All right, thanks, Judd. Any of the other members of the bike plan committee want to chime in? Everybody's quite quiescent tonight. Okay, next up is Barbara McCabe with events.
Well, I'm gonna be really quiet because I have no events.
No.
Okay.
No Zoom events?
No, I didn't hear anything back from the city on that. They talked about October 6th, and
Yeah, apparently that's not happening.
I guess not.
But we're ready if they ever get ready. All right, thanks a lot. Norwalk River Valley, Jim Carter was unable to join us tonight, but he did send me his report. First of all, the missing link has finally gone out to bid. The bids are due back in early November. And once again, we would like to thank Mike Yosak for his literally years of hard work to get us this far. And hopefully we'll start construction in the spring. And if it's early enough, it'll get done in the spring, but probably sometime next summer. So that's all good news. And Willwalk, we have finally signed all of the leases that were required with the state because where the trail goes over state property, we need a lease with the state. Still, the NRVT is still working on final approvals with some of the town boards in Wilton, but it is progressing. And we are still anticipating to begin construction on Willwalk as well in the spring. There is a grant for Willwalk, and as most grants, it has the grantor pays 80% of the grant, and the organization has to supply the other 20%. And I believe it was the week before last, we did achieve the $275,000 that represents the 20% match. So we are all set financially for Willwalk as well. The Harbor Loop Trail and that piece comes around behind 40 Cross Street and then crosses Cross Street and picks up with the existing part of the Harbor Loop Trail. And we've been working with the redevelopment agency because they're the ones that have the funds to do that, and they are also the ones that are going to supervise the work. And because of the amount of space between the parking lot and the Norwalk River, the trail there was conceived as only being 4 feet wide instead of 8 feet like the rest of the trail, because the owner at that time did not want to lose any parking spaces, which is understandable. However, the new owner is amenable to us working with them to expand it to be 6 feet wide, and we will report back to you on the progress of that. And then the last item is the NRVT is actually working with this commission on the on-road segments in Norwalk, which is basically Calf Pasture Beach to the aquarium. We've just heard about Seaview Avenue, which is part of that. There was also some talk, which I believe Jim reported back probably a year and a half ago, about moving the trailhead, which now is by the bathrooms at Calf Pasture Beach, over to the water side of Ripka's. And that was within conjunction of putting a bike lane on the road that goes around the parking lot so that we could use that as part of the NRVT as well. And that's, like many other things, been stalled by COVID. So Jim will try to get the city refocused on that. And then the last thing is the NRVT has been looking into larger signs to put on the roadway, as well as some signage that we could actually put in the road or on the sidewalks. So we'll be getting back to either Jim or I will, because those are all joint projects of the commission and the NRVT. And that's it for Jim's report. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add?
And Nancy, you said for the missing link of the bids will come back in November,
Yes.
and then there will be another funding window following that?
No, we have, that is fully funded.
Okay, copy.
And as of 2 weeks ago, Will Walk is also full, well, the section of Will Walk that we're planning to do is fully funded as well.
Mm-hmm.
Although generally, like projects around your home, these projects come in a little over budget.
Yeah.
So we may need to do a little bit more fundraising, particularly for Will Walk. But for the way things stand right now, we're good.
Good.
Yeah, Judd.
And the Will Walk is from Perry Avenue North
Yes.
all the way to the Wilton line and will connect.
think
It's
to
up
Kent
to
Road.
Orms where the current Wilton Trail is.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Will Walk has some really expensive pieces where we have to put bridges over wetlands. So we're trying to sort of piece in the less expensive pieces first and hopefully generate some momentum so that people will open their wallets and purses to help us with the more expensive pieces. So that's why Will Walk is being done a little piecemeal. And there's also one section that that NRVT is still negotiating with a private land owner for a right of way.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Anything else? Okay. Well, I'm also playing the part of the chair for the pedestrian plan. Hopefully, we'll have somebody new in that position by next month, but of course I said that last month.
The month before.
In any case, as part of your agenda, if you go down, there is a link to the survey we talked about last month. And if you have not already filled out the survey, I would really appreciate it if you would do that. It probably doesn't take more than about 3 minutes. And the deadline for completing it is this Friday. So hopefully next month either I or the new chair of the Pedestrian Plan Committee will be able to give you the results of the survey. What we're trying to do is survey people's walking habits and use that as a way to prioritize our next targets when we get finished with improving the sidewalk access around the schools. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or want to volunteer to chair the Pedestrian Plan Committee? I thought I'd ask. Okay, Christine is not here, and I don't know that she had anything to report on safety and education.
Nancy, I guess I do have one comment tangentially related to pedestrian matters.
Sure.
So this is a long shot, but the other day I was riding my bike on the way to pick up some food, and I noticed this guy who was walking, and he looked like he did a lot of walking. He was well equipped, and so on my way back I noticed him again, and I stopped him and talked to him briefly. It turns out that he walks everywhere, and as a result, he has made a map of Norwalk and a map of Stamford using Google Street View to map out where all the sidewalks are and kind of the conditions. My conversation with him was like a minute long, but he acted very willing to share the map that he's made. And I don't know much about him, but I will invite him to become more involved with the committee. Based on a little bit that I know about him, he seems like very well versed in pedestrian, at least the state of the pedestrian infrastructure here, and potentially I'm going to invite him to participate more.
Sure, or at least if his map is in a shareable format.
Yeah, that'll be my first goal, to see if we can get it to other people so they can use it.
Yep, that would be great. I know there was a guy who intentionally walked every street in Norwalk a few years ago. I
Oh,
wonder if it's the same guy.
maybe. He, I think that he's Korean, or at least of Korean ancestry. I got his name and it seemed like a Korean name. He looked Korean.
Okay, well, thank you, Tanner. That would be great. Alrighty. So where were we here? Social media. Oh, safe. Oh, wait, I was almost going to skip over you, Tanner. Tanner, you also are reporting on social media.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, I've got a couple of slides. Let me present. So can people see slides?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. I'm just going to do this kind of informally without presentation mode. So last month I talked about outreach, the current state of our outreach. We have 3 channels right now: Facebook, an email mailing list, and a website. I talked about how we were trying to answer the question of what we want people to do, because we kind of set up these channels with the understanding that they would be good, that we should have them, but not really an understanding of what the strategy would be once we do have them, once we have an audience. But we have a little bit of an audience now. So what do we want from that audience? Well, I got together with Sam and then with Julia, who reports to Teresa at the health department, and the 3 of us had a little focus group. We went back to the mission statement and we looked at it through the lens of outreach and social media. There really isn't anything directly in the mission statement that talks about social media or about messaging to the public. The closest thing maybe, it's not even in, I thought it was talking about events, but it's not, it's very high level. So we looked at the goals, and goal number 5 is the most relevant. You know, it has some direct goals about social media, for example, updating it monthly. Pleased to report that we do much better than that. However, we kind of saw a gap here, both in the mission statement, or in the mission and especially in the goal, and that was around education. We've done a little bit of work so far as a commission around education, you know, with the safety flyer that we're working on getting out. But there wasn't really anything in the goals about that, and we thought that that would be a way that we could have a lot of impact on the city and on the state of bicycling and walking in the city. So we brainstormed and came up with another goal. We don't necessarily have to add this as an official goal, but it was what a large part of our discussion revolved around, and that was fostering a discussion in the community about how transportation is a quality of life issue. And we went back and forth. We got, you can describe it as a quality of life issue or as a social issue. Sam, if you want to chime in here or at any point, let me know. But we got some ideas for how to foster that discussion. Last time I also talked about audiences, about how there's lots of different interests and different types of people that we might engage with, and we talked about how they have, because they have different interests, we would want to make sure that we, to the best of our abilities, engage them with content that's interesting to them. And right now, we've only started to do that with our current Facebook page. I kind of, the messaging we have, we don't really discriminate between our different channels. But we talked about how some people are more interested in biking and walking from the lens of transportation, some through recreation. We also have a split of people who are more enthusiastic. Those are the kinds of people who show up to a meeting like this, versus people who are more casual, who maybe just like want to go for a walk. Of course, this isn't just like a binary divide. There's a whole age spectrum that we have, and I think that you can make rough estimations about people's interests based on that. And then also we have a split in Norwalk and in Connecticut, and of course the whole nation. But it's particularly obvious in Connecticut that there's a especially a geographical split between high income and low income people, and they will of course have different interests and needs when it comes to transportation. So we obviously, if we split the population in half on each of these, we'd end up with 16 categories, and that's too many to start with. So we've decided, we came up with two that are kind of at the opposite ends of each of these four spectra, or at least some of them. One of them, of course, inspired by an idea that Julia had to organize a Facebook group that where people can basically plan walks and go on walks together. We figured that would overwhelmingly target people who are interested in walking recreationally, who are more casual about it, probably who are older rather than younger. And then kind of on the other end of the spectrum, we thought about high school students. High school students are going to be much more interested in biking and walking from a transportation angle, given that most high school students don't have a driver's license. And this could even extend down to middle school students. We really talked about it in terms of like anybody who has a phone, right? Lots of middle school students have a phone that we could reach through a channel like Instagram. We need to do more work around figuring out exactly what the best would be, but I think Instagram is a good place to start. I think we'd find a lot of people who are interested casually, but also some who might be enthusiastic and don't really know it. We talked a lot about how a lot of this education can be around things like sustainability and social progress, that these are motivating things for people, and especially young people right now, that we think we could tap into a lot of latent enthusiasm, latent passion for issues like this that transportation really can tie into. We talked a lot about how these connections between sustainability, for example, and social progress and transportation are sometimes not very obvious to the public, and that's maybe a place where we can have a lot of impact by helping the public see the connection, for example, between building bike lanes, building bike infrastructure, and cleaner air, for example. Before here, I lived in Utah, where during the winter they have some of the worst air quality in the nation, and I've seen, because I've still run some of those circles, how air quality has been a huge driver for progress in Utah, especially in cities getting more alternative transportation encouraged and the infrastructure therefore built. So maybe air quality isn't as big of an issue here, but I think that we will find a lot of people who are interested in transportation, alternative transportation, from the sustainability angle, also from the social progress angle. This is an area that I think Sam is most well versed in. So Sam, if you want to speak to that, you're welcome to.
Sure, yeah. Tanner introduced the idea pretty accurately, where transportation is so integral in a lot of progressive movements, and generally in bettering the world. Transportation is at the heart of a lot of what can be improved upon throughout various industries and movements. So when we were thinking about how to frame accessing new members, really just how are we going to attract people to the material we're trying to perpetuate. We really thought you can't just talk about transportation. You can't just try and educate them around transportation. It has to tie into movements or topics that they are already activated with. And lucky for us, and unlucky, like I said, transportation is just so integral in the story of a more sustainable world. It is so integral in the story of a more just world. So being able to tell those stories without hyperbole, but cutting to the core of it and helping people understand in I think I used the word a woke way, that they can make quite a significant difference in a lot of the areas they care quite a bit about through their actions in transportation.
Cool, thanks, Sam. So obviously this is all very nascent. We don't have concrete plans for a lot of this. You know, it's mostly ideas. We do have a quite a concrete plan though, to work with Jalea to create this group for walking. It's something that the health department has already talked about doing, and it's something that we would love to support. As for how we will engage other audiences, that's still an area of brainstorming. So any ideas that people have, would love to hear them. One more concrete idea that we had is, now that we do have a Facebook presence, we could spend a little bit of money on ads, and that could open up our area of effect, as it were. I actually toyed with, about a week ago, I posted the link to the pedestrian survey that the health department, or that the pedestrian committee put together. And Facebook asked me, would you like to boost this? And I was like, oh, what does that look like? So I toyed with the idea of just putting $10 of my own money into it to see what it would do. I didn't do that. I'm happy to. I didn't know if that would break any rules though. So I would love to know what the rules are around that, and if we have any budget for that, because I think that's something that's worth experimenting with. So that's all that I have to report. Anybody have any idea about the budget or regulations around ads?
Yeah, we have a budget, but we only have a total dollar amount. We've never actually broken it down into how much money we're going to spend for what. So normally the way this works is you let me know what you want to spend, and I can tell you that that's fine, based on how much money we have in the budget. And pretty much anything anybody's come up with has been fine, and we've ended up I think we've ended up every single year since we've had a budget not spending at all. So, you know, unless you want to spend $10,000, we're probably good.
Well, how about this? Can I formally request $10 to experiment with Facebook ads?
Yep. And I don't know, Catherine, how we go about doing that for I mean, I know if it's something we're ordering from a company, we just order it through your department and they get billed and that gets taken care of. But if it's something like boosting a Facebook ad, I don't know how we go about actually getting the money.
Nancy, can I ask a question before she answers?
Sure.
Tanner, do you have any idea? I mean, you're throwing $10 out there, but what's the order of magnitude to boost a post?
I mean, I think that it's available entirely incrementally. I think that, you know, a single impression is probably on the order of like 1 cent or less. And so you can put as little or as much money as you want, and it will just, you'll get that many impressions. I'm not sure what the conversion rate is from cents to impressions, but.
So Colin and Tanner, I've actually done this quite a bit, parking authority, and it's been extremely effective. You can decide how much, I think, if I recall, it's been a while, Tanner, I think you can decide, there's a minimum that you have to spend. I'll answer your thing in a minute, Nance. But you can decide on what range. They have drop-down menus where you can decide the range and what market you reach. But it's a very cost-effective way to exponentially communicate with a lot of people on something. It's targeted. So I recommend it, and maybe $10 isn't enough. Maybe 25 will get you.
That's, yeah, that's what I was
Group,
thinking.
yeah, I
If
mean,
we were going to go
so
through this
Tanner,
level of
yeah,
voting on it, I would think
I
that we wanted
agree.
to allocate 100 or 250 as a maximum to start. And then if we don't spend it, we don't spend it, and we can reallocate
But
it.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, I think it should be more. I mean, Tanner, you might want to do a little more research on this. I would do
Mhm.
maybe 100, maybe even 200, kind of do a range of, and you can do the period of time too. So that's where the cost comes in. So I recommend that you do a little more homework before you give it to the commission, but I think it's a really effective way of getting the word out in a targeted way. So Nancy, the way it works, because it's online and it has to be done through a credit card. The TMP has a credit card. So that, and again, Greg Pacelli is your staff lead and liaison, and I suggest that these type of administrative requests, that he be looped into everything, and he will
Okay.
be the person that can help coordinate that once the commission decides what it wants to do.
Okay, so Tanner, I think the takeaways are you probably need to come up with a budget and maybe next month say, okay, you know, based on my research, this is what we would get for this amount of money kind of thing, and I'm planning to do this X number of times this year. And this year only goes through June 30th because that's the fiscal year of the city.
Okay.
And then, you know, the commission can approve it or increase it or decrease it. And
Sure.
then you can get with Greg and figure out the mechanics of how you actually do it.
So
Yeah.
just real quick, the boost, it wouldn't go, well, it could if you wanted to go for 6 months or 8 months, but then Tanner, just do a little research. It can go for 2 weeks, a month,
Mhm.
you know, maybe there's, and then you can always add to it. It'll notify you that it's ending, and they'll say, well, would you like to continue this for another, whatever, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Or you decide.
And it sounds like also it would be useful to come back with an idea of like if there are sub-audiences that we want to target with a particular campaign. Like because
think you need to
the
be very-
advantage is that you can target pretty directly.
Yeah, so because it's targeted, you want to be real specific in your message. So, you know, work with Greg, work with maybe another commissioner as a suggestion, so you come up with those ideas, you know.
You know, I think Julia can probably help you out with that too, because she and Teresa manage the health department's social
Yeah.
media.
It's a good
Cool.
idea.
Okay.
Yeah, and from what I've noticed, they do a very good job. They actually reposted our post from about the survey, so we're growing our reach. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I wanted to invite everybody to do something when it comes to social media. I found that a really great way to increase the reach of our Facebook group is to cross-post it to other groups in Norwalk. I think there's a lot of activity that I've found somewhat recently on, you know, on like the Norwalk level on Facebook. I, for example, have found the Livable Norwalk group that has like 1,000 members. There's a Norwalk Community Bulletin Board that I joined, and then there's a group that I found for my neighborhood, Golden Hill. And I posted the walking survey, the pedestrian survey, to all 3 of those groups and got reactions and and from my neighborhood group, quite a bit of engagement actually, just from cross-posting it there. So I want to invite all of you. First of all, if you haven't liked the page, go like the page, like some of our posts, create some engagement, and then if you have, for example, your own little neighborhood group, or maybe you're in a big apartment building and you have an apartment building group, share the commission's Facebook page there and invite people to go do the pedestrian survey. It might seem like only a little bit of an impact, but we only have like 120 people who have liked our page, so every little bit actually does make a fairly big incremental difference.
All right. Well, thank you, Tanner. Anybody else have anything else for Tanner? Okay. Our next is the strategic plan. Obviously, Deanna is not here since she's a little busy being the director of the health department. And I have to apologize for not getting a draft of the strategic plan out to people in the agenda, but the committee only met last Friday afternoon. So I will share my screen and we can go through this together. Okay, everybody see the strategic plan? And I will send this out following this meeting. Oops, except I'm at goal number 5. Hang on. Okay, this is probably a little new to Sam, but what we do, Sam, is usually at the June meeting, we adopt a series of goals and objectives and then steps towards those objectives that are measurable. And we've had the same goals ever since we became a commission because they closely hew to what the ordinance that created the commission said we're supposed to be doing. So the first goal is to promote and complete streets, programs, and facilities for bicycles and pedestrians in the city of Norwalk. And the first objective is to complete the east-west and north-south bike route connections. Greg spoke to the east-west a little while ago because that is the project that he's working on, because the east-west route is basically 136, since that runs either from Westport to Darien or Darien to Westport, depending upon which way you're facing. The north-south route goes from the New Canaan border down 123, across Nursery, down Ponus, down Richards, and from Richards, I think it goes all the way down into Rowayton, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it goes all the way to Rowayton and Cutlip Street intersection.
Okay, thanks. So that's something that we're going to have to work on with the city to implement. The first activity or strategy is to work with the city to have the bike lanes and shadowed routes implemented. We have the grant money and are negotiating the details with the state, and I should probably add into that for the east-west route.
Nancy?
Yep. Somebody have something to say?
Yeah, Nancy, this is Mike Yosak. The north-south route is part of that grant as well.
Is it? Okay, thank you. So I'll take that out. And that one, other than the little piece on Route 123, we don't have to negotiate with the state.
Okay.
Alrighty. And then the second part, which is actually dependent on the first, is to work with the city to have the bike lanes and shadowed routes implemented. I guess actually we don't need that. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The idea there was TMP really does the planning, but it's DPW that will actually go out there with the paint.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Nancy. There's a lot of backfeed going on.
Okay, if you're not speaking, could you mute yourself?
Jeff, maybe you can mute Christine, please.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments other than what have already been made? Okay. Goal number 2 is to review, promote, and update the City of Norwalk's master bicycle plan. And the objective is to determine the need for additional sheltered bicycle parking and or secured location at city-owned facilities. Last year we did, or the year before, we did create a map of where all the existing bike racks are on city properties, and that is on our website, so you can go and see that. So the next step was to identify specific sites for additional bike parking, and then to work with the city to add the sites that we identify. And because the bike plan committee has been pretty wrapped up in the bike plan, that was something they did not get to last year, so we've carried it over to this year. Any questions, comments? Okay, and then the next one is to review, promote, and update the City of Norwalk's pedestrian plan. And the objective on that is to focus on pedestrian safety near the schools. Our first objective is to gather information to prioritize the needs. And we are on target on that. We've actually did send out a survey only to the school communities a little over a year ago, and we are now sending out an additional survey to help us further prioritize that. And then once we have prioritized the needs, then obviously the next step is to work with the city to implement the improvements that were suggested by the prioritization. Alrighty. Number 4 is to work with other city agencies to implement the portions of the plan of conservation and development assigned to the Bike Walk Commission. As I said to the committee, I've been talking with Steve Kleppen about having him come to a meeting and give us a broad overview of the POCD and then drill down on those things that are assigned to this commission. And there's nothing that's actually assigned only to us. Every single one of them is in conjunction with other groups within the city. We started talking in March and then obviously stopped talking fairly abruptly and really has not become sufficiently important for us to look at yet, or for Steve, I think, to look at yet. But I do hope that sometime before June, we will have him in and at least understand what our responsibilities are, even if we don't get started on them by the end of the year. Are there any questions on that? Okay, number 5, coordinate and promote public awareness campaigns, education, and events related to bicycle and pedestrian uses. And our first objective is to participate in at least 4 community outreach events, and we're doing the best we can. We're ready as soon as there are some events for us to piggyback on, or until it makes sense for us perhaps to revisit an event around the Cargo Bikes film. Second one is to continue to update the Commission's website and social media with relevant content, review the website content quarterly and update as needed. Tanner, would you be more comfortable with that update being maybe semi-annually, or is quarterly a reasonable?
Oh yeah, it's entirely reasonable. The fact that I haven't yet updated it is entirely a product of me being new.
Yeah, well, that's why I put the comment in that the committee is working on a long-term plan, and then the website update will follow.
Mm-hmm. In fact,
And then
it might be most effective if you could just remind me quickly what the channel is to do that, because I don't remember.
ultimately, it's to send the changes you want to Teresa.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll work with Teresa.
And I think I sent you some suggestions, but if I didn't, I probably still have an email hanging around that I can forward to you.
No, I think you did. I'm looking for it in my inbox right now.
Okay, well, if you can't find it, maybe I can. And the other thing is, what you may want to do is just put a quick focus group together just to focus on looking at the site and seeing what changes seem to make sense. Okay, and then 5.2.2, update social media at least monthly. We're definitely way above that target, which is wonderful. And then the third one is to work with the city's communications manager, grants coordinator, to send news releases. And we did ask him to share it over all the city's public media, and he did. And I did follow up today with the people that I talked to about sharing the link to the survey to send something out this week to remind people that Friday is the deadline. So Tanner, if you want to do that to your groups as well, that would be great. And then number 6, and the final one, is to apply for a minimum of 2 grants. And again, working with the city's communications manager, grants coordinator, to apply for 2 grants. I'm looking at one right now that I think we may apply for. So that'll get us halfway to our goal. Are there any questions or comments or additions? Again, for the newer members of the commission, we obviously do things in addition to the strategic plan, but the strategic plan helps us to focus in on some things we really should be doing to accomplish our mission. And we do review it quarterly so that we sort of remind ourselves, oh yeah, we were supposed to be doing that.
Nancy?
Yes.
Barbara here. Is one of the ones you applied for the America Walks grant?
I was planning to. Why?
Just that I got an email and just wanted to know if that was on the agenda.
Yep. And if you have any ideas, please send them to me.
I'll try.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nancy?
Yep.
How many pages is this document?
I think it's 2, maybe 3.
Okay.
I will send, excuse me, I will send it out after this meeting, because now that I couldn't send it out after I sent out the agenda because that's a potential Freedom of Information Act violation. But now that it's been shared with the public, I can share it with you.
Is it, my memory is we review this with the commission once a year like
No,
this?
quarterly,
Quarterly. Okay, good. Glad to hear that.
except when I forget.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Alrighty. Our next item is the walking update, and since neither Teresa nor Deanna is here, and usually if they have something and they can't come, they send it to me. And I didn't get anything, so I'm assuming they had nothing to report. So that brings us to old business. And this has been on a few agendas, our safety card. And again, I did attach it to the agenda if you don't remember what it looks like. But where we left off last month is we can distribute this both virtually and we can get some printed and hand them out the old-fashioned way. Christine had a suggestion. Christine, you said the League of Women Voters has a table at the mall for a couple of days. Christine, are you there or just on mute?
Sorry. So, hi, Nancy, and my sincere apologies to everybody tonight. I'm so sorry that you had to listen to that background noise. Something came up, and that's why I was late. That was important, but I apologize. Yeah, Nancy, the League of Women Voters, we're having a table there this weekend, actually. Do you want me to look into that? I'm happy to sit at a table for a couple hours in the mall, yeah.
Is it just this weekend or is it additional weekends?
No, but we picked this weekend because it's getting close to the vote. It's about registering voters, so,
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we can get the cards printed up that quickly.
No, and I don't think we would piggyback with them. I think we would have our own separate time frame there. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Can you find out how we get a table at the mall?
That's what I'll definitely do. And also, while I have the mic here, and thank you for muting me again, I apologize. But I'd like to help you with the grants if I can, to look up some grants, and I'll look at the email you sent me today. And
Okay.
also, I'm sorry I missed my spot on the agenda, but I did speak with the rec department, and they really want to have some sort of an event this fall.
Mhm.
And I think we can be working with them together closely.
Okay,
more
that'd be
so.
great.
Yeah. All right, I'll talk with you maybe offline later, Nancy.
Okay, thanks a lot, Christine. And
Sorry
like
again.
I say, what we would also need to know from you is about how many of these things you think you might need, because that would obviously contribute to how many we order. But you could probably get a sense of how many people stop at such a table when you're at the league's table this weekend.
Did we figure out how big these are?
I thought I sent out an email in answer to that question from last month's meeting, but I can look it up again.
If we do get a table, remember that I have the young people walking guides. They're at the
Yep.
health department.
Yep. No, it was my misinterpretation. I thought Christine was saying we could maybe just hand some out at the League of Women Voters table, so I didn't want to try to co-opt their entire table. But definitely, if we're going to do a table just for the commission, we definitely would put out everything we got. Okay. The other idea I had is last week I went to pick up a book at the library, and when you go to pick up the book, they give you a little shopping bag with the book or books in it. And the last week when I picked up my book, it also had several different leaflets in it. So I thought perhaps we could talk to the library and see if they would stick the safety cards in their bags for, a week or two. So I would be happy to do that.
I think that's a great idea.
Because we would, a lot of our events are kid oriented, but all sorts of people go to the library. So we would maybe pick up a much broader audience. We obviously can electronically distribute it through our social media, right, Tanner? And Tanner, I don't know if
Absolutely.
you want to think about other social media that it would be appropriate to distribute. But perhaps that's something for your committee to think about.
I mean, any of the 3 channels, well, I don't know if we wanted to post it permanently on our website, but certainly we could send it out.
Oh yeah,
via
the
email
website
and
would
via-
be good too. But in any case, if you could sort of take over the social media piece of how's the best way to distribute those cards. And I will send you the electronic version.
Yeah, I think it'll be relatively straightforward. Just take the electronic version and post it as an image, or
Okay.
maybe
And
PDF.
Barbara, do you think we should order some against the day we actually go to live events?
Order some what?
So, of the bicycle and, well, it's actually it's going to be a 2-sided card. The bicycle and pedestrian safety tips.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think we would 300 be a good number?
Sure.
Okay. So unless anybody else has some ideas about how to distribute actual physical cards, I think what I'll do is if the library will distribute some, however many they'll distribute for us, plus 300 is what I'll go ahead and order. Don't all talk at once here.
Am I muted?
No.
You're good.
Okay. Do the cards, I'm looking at the attachment here to the agenda.
Yep.
Do they say on them Norwalk Bike Walk Commission or
I
any?
thought they did at the bottom and they had our website.
Yeah, but
They don't?
well, not on what's attached.
All right.
Did
I may have attached an earlier version that, well, no, I shouldn't have. I'll double check that the printer actually puts those on. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I would love to have 50 or so to keep in my car.
Sure.
Hey, Nancy, it's Christine again. Two things. I have another idea maybe because I know Mary Oster works for the mayor's office with the early childhood program, and they always are giving out free books, but maybe we could tuck some in those books. And also, do we have them in Spanish? Maybe you already said that.
I don't believe we do.
Is that something you need help translating? Because I think that was kind of important to have that.
Do you have somebody that can translate them?
Yeah, I'll bring them to the school. Yes, I will.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Do you want to talk to Mary, or would you like me to?
I will speak with her.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Nancy?
Yep.
Yeah, just while people are asking, I mean, is what was attached the proposed card? Because it's not, you know, from what I'm looking at, it looks like it's just on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you know, we're referring to it as a card, but it doesn't seem. I don't
It
know.
is a card, and I don't think it's, I'm trying to think. Well, I won't guess at it. I'd have to go back and look it up again.
I think
Yeah, I guess
5 by 8.
my question was really at its base was it doesn't, what's attached doesn't seem to be a camera ready or print ready piece of artwork, you know, based on, you know, that it needs Spanish and it can't quite tell what size it is and what orientation it is. So I you know, whenever the next time is we see this, whatever the Spanish and I guess the logo and the dimensions of it would probably be helpful.
Yeah, I wasn't, we weren't putting the logo on. We were just putting Norwalk Bike Walk Commission on the bottom and our website.
Yeah. So I mean that information. So I would have thought the logo would be easy, but that's fine.
Okay, Christine, you found the size of it?
I remember it being 5 by 8 recommended by the printer. Is it?
Okay, that sounds right.
Yep.
I know it wasn't 8.5 by 11, and it definitely was not business card size because we'd have to hand
Yeah,
out magnifying glasses.
It would be tiny, right?
Okay. So, anything else on the safety card? All right, if not, that brings us to new business. And again, I've attached the schedule of meetings for 2021 because according to Freedom of Information, it has to be published, I believe, by December 1st. And if you take a look at it, it's the first Monday of every month except September because the first Monday of September is Labor Day. And in that case, we meet on the second Monday. However, we need to actually approve the calendar so I can send it in and not be bothered by the mayor's office about it. So if somebody, is there any discussion about the calendar for next year? Figure it's fairly non-controversial. Okay, could somebody move to adopt the calendar?
I'll move to adopt the calendar.
Okay, Judd.
I'll second that.
Sorry, who was the second?
Oh.
I
Sam.
can be.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. And then the last thing I wanted to do, and I think I will share my screen for that one as well, is to review the committee assignments, some of which have changed. Where's, I'll share my screen. And some of you may want to change. So, and that was the last page of the agenda that I sent out. So just quickly here, the Bike Plan Committee, I had Judd as the chair, Colin, Tanner, and Gary. Is there anybody I missed that's on it or anybody on the commission who would like to join?
Sam?
Yeah, I'd like to join for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Events, I have Christine as a member and Barbara as the chair. Is there anybody that would like to join that committee? Okay. Pedestrian Plan Committee, the people who are on the commission, Teresa is sort of ex officio from the health department. I left Brian on there because he was the chair and I wanted to remind people that we do need a chair. The only other people from I think we can take Kathy off from the commission. Are Barbara McCabe and Greg and Mike. And you'll see that's got, that committee actually has a lot of non-commissioners on it, many of whom are actually fairly active. So that's very helpful. Safety and education is Christine. Is there anybody that would like to join that and help her out?
I think I'd be willing to sign up for that, but just to fully understand it, is it educating people in safety or is it safety and education? Do you know what I mean?
Christine, you want to speak to that? Yep. Are you on mute? Well, okay, I'll try to answer that then. Yeah, it's basically the committee that deals with safety outreach as well as general education. And I guess in a lot of ways it sort of overlaps with events because that's what we try to do through our events as well. I don't know, does that answer your question? And if not, you'll have to ask it a different way.
It does. So you can certainly tentatively sign me up.
Okay.
I have a feeling with COVID, there's not going to be a lot of.
Yeah. Well, we need to be
opportunity
a little more creative.
Yep.
And that's what Christine is trying to do with the recreation folks. Is, you know, considering that, oops, that we can't do things in person by and large, you know, how else can we do things?
Nancy, can I just add my 2 cents to that? Sam, I think part of the concept, at least what comes to my head when I think of that commission is also, or that subcommittee is also kind of like the safety card that we're handing out. You know, it's like if you had educational ideas or ways you could share that on social media for the local populace, that would probably fall under that committee as well, or initiatives to.
Yep, I was going to sign up for that as well, and really hope to kind of blend the two.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a good place to be for that kind of stuff.
Great.
Okie doke. Social media, Sam, did I hear you say you were interested in that as well?
Yep.
You may have to give up your job.
We'll see. These are all tentative.
Yep, understand.
See where I can make the most impact.
Okay, strategic plan. The thing about the strategic plan. Pardon?
Can I propose another member for the social media committee?
Sure.
Julia Green, who again reports to Teresa in the public health department. She was very helpful and had lots of good ideas. We discussed kind of informally the idea that she could continue to work with us, but if we could formalize that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Obviously, we can also reach out to her and confirm that she's interested in being formally appointed.
If she says she doesn't want to formally be part of it and just would rather participate in the focus group kinds of things, that's fine. Okay.
I mean, the focus group, I think, kind of, that was about the level that I would imagine our subcommittee meetings would look like.
Okay. Well,
now that I mentioned that, Christine, you tried to join, or you were planning on joining. Would you like to also be included as a potential subcommittee member?
I don't think Christine's on anymore.
Yeah, she left.
All right, I'll talk to her.
Okay.
Okie doke. And then strategic plan, Deanna does chair the strategic plan committee, and I think she will eventually be back to chairing it because she's very good at it. We have Christine, Colin, Catherine again will be, I think, retiring.
I guess sign me up for this one too.
Okey doke.
Nancy, I'm interested in a strategic plan. This is Barbara.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is the nice thing about this committee is it only meets 4 times a year.
I think there's a lot of thinking in between.
Okey doke. So that's it for committees. And that's it for our agenda. Does anybody have anything to comment about before I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, Kath?
Say one thing. I want to say it's been great working with all of you. As you all know, I think I'm retiring as of Nick this Friday, and it's been just a wonderful pleasure working with all of you. I'm really happy that in the last several years that we've been able to bring the bike walk and PED committee more in the front of mobility, because it's a really critical part of mobility. And I just wanted to add, Tanner, you did a good job presenting your piece. It's not only about transportation, which is critical, yes, it's really about mobility and how we move people around in different ways. So maybe think about that as the umbrella of including transportation and mobility, you know, because walking and biking and microtransit and transit and everything else is all about mobility and how we all work together to move people in different ways. So I'm really happy that we've been able to just really catapult this commission into that arena. So anyway, I'm retiring in a way, but not really. I'm just after 33 years, it's been a great ride, and I'm moving on to my next adventure. So someone like me who has an enormous amount of energy, even at my age, I'm not really leaving, retiring and playing golf and hanging out. I don't know whatever people do. I'm not really sure. So I'll see you. I'll be seeing you somewhere. That's it.
Thank you, Catherine, for all your hard work over the years. So you'll be missed.
Was that what you were going to say, Judd, before, or did you have something else?
Well, no, I was going to say something else before, and then I was going to say that. So because I know this is her last meeting with us. So
Actually, my last meeting. Zoom meeting, city Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So you guys are my last.
Wow.
Save the best for last, right?
I do. I saved the best for last. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, the other thing I was going to say, just when we have our, and I brought it up at the Zoom meeting for this bike route subcommittee, I think it would make sense to include pedestrian, sidewalk, crosswalk things. Those are all things that I look at and pay attention to. So if there's anyone on the pedestrian subcommittee and there's issues they want to talk about, maybe that's the time. You know, at some point it may need its own separate subcommittee Zoom meeting with Greg. I'm sure that's what you want to hear, Greg, right?
Oh, absolutely, Judd.
Well,
More to the mix. That's what I.
But you know, there are places in the city where there's crosswalks. You know, the ADA ramps are there, but the crosswalk's not striped. Those are kind of things I just want to start including in that meeting that we have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Judd, the pedestrian plan committee is really already doing that, and Greg meets with us every time.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
part of where the sidewalk improvements around the schools have been coming from.
Okay, so if I have things, I should bring them to your attention.
Sure.
Time being, until you have a chair.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. I didn't.
Yep.
After all these years, I didn't know that. So,
Well, yeah, I think it's because the pedestrian committee doesn't always report back on all of the nitty-gritty things they do.
yep. Okay.
All right, and I was also going to add my thanks to Catherine for her help with this commission, and I think the creation of her department has really done a lot to help the progress of this commission as well. So it's, rather than working directly with DPW. So thank you very much for all your contributions, and we wish you only good things in your future.
You're muted.
I said thank you.
Okay.
Again.
And now back to the mundane. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thanks, Judd. Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. Thank you very much for your participation, and you just got another 10 minutes back to squander on something else.
Yeehaw.
Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Well,
Thank
aye.
Have a good night.